A blizzard of crystalline shards whipped across the endless plains of Vargan 9, each flake sharper than any blade forged by human hands. Beneath a half-collapsed survival pod, Lara crouched on the frost-hardened ground, her breath turning to mist and drifting away in the gale. The pod's shattered domed window hissed as it expelled its precious warmth. Inside, the soft glow of dying biolights cast long, trembling shadows. Clutching her infant daughter, Miri, against her chest, Lara felt the faintest flicker of life within the tiny body. Miri's scales, normally a radiant cascade of sapphire, and teal were now pale as moonstone, her breathing so shallow it forced Lara to count each infinitesimal rise and fall of her chest. The air in her lungs felt as cold and heavy as the ice beneath her knees. Instinct drove Lara to begin the ancient lullaby of her people, a melody passed down through countless generations. Child of starlight, soft and fair, shelter now from frigid air. Through frost-tipped trees and frozen sea, I guard you with my harmony. Her voice was a fragile thread weaving through the storm, each note trembling with more hope than certainty. In the hush between verses, the wind answered, not with gentleness, but a roar that tore at her cloak and threatened to snuff out the lullaby before it could wrap around her daughter like a blanket. Lara pressed Miri tighter. Shh. Mommy's here, she murmured, her voice muffled by layers of fur and fleece. The words felt useless against the immensity of the blizzard, yet she clung to them as though they were talismans. A sudden vibration rattled the broken pod's framework. Cracks ran like spiderwebs across the transparent surface, ice forming along their edges. An alarm blared, a harsh metallic staccato that grated on her nerves. Warning. Temperature critical. Structural integrity at 23%. The colony's AI cadence spoke in its dispassionate tenor. Lara shot a glance toward the pod's sealed hatch. Beyond that flimsy barrier lay the open tundra, and with it certain death in sub-zero gales. She shook her head, tears freezing on her lashes. No, she whispered. Not yet. Dragging herself vertical, Lara peered out through a fissured viewport. Gray light filtered in, revealing the silhouettes of dozens of other pods, some intact, most broken and lifeless. Farther off, a jagged ridge of frost-sculpted rock marked the edge of the colony's boundaries. Beyond it, she knew, lay the uncharted ice sea, a place of legend and nightmares. Each step she took toward the hatch sent shards of ice tinkling like wind chimes. She pried at the latch with numb fingers. A crack widened overhead, and for a terrifying moment she thought the entire ceiling would collapse. The air inside rushed out, instantly chilling her to the bone. Lara staggered back, her heart pounding. Miri whimpered. Desperation soured Lara's throat. She sank to her knees, pulling Miri closer. I'm sorry, she said, voice cracking. I don't know what to do. Closing her eyes, she summoned every ounce of the lullaby's power. The melody that had once lulled generations to sleep now stood as a shield against oblivion. Her lips trembled as she pushed through the final lines. Though ice may claim the earth and sky, my song remains, no tear shall cry. Until the dawn of hope's return, in melody, our spirits burn. When the last note faded, only the wind answered. The pod trembled. Another explosion of frost lit up the interior like shattered stars. Lara felt the cold seep into her bones, each breath like inhaling shards of glass. As consciousness threatened to slip away, she caught sight of something through the fractured window, a series of enormous footprints pressed into the fresh snow outside. Each impression was curved and deep, as though made by a towering figure wearing boots fashioned from living metal. The tracks led straight to her ruined refuge, and then vanished into the swirling white. Her heart leaped. Could this be the human from legend? The ancient savior spoken of in hushed whispers? Lara forced herself to her feet, every muscle trembling. She steadied Miri in her arms and pressed her face against the pod's icy wall. Here, she whispered fiercely. Come, find us, please. And in the howl of the storm she dared to believe that her song had reached across the ice, and that someone was coming to answer. Lara blinked against the icy glare as she pushed open the ruptured hatch. The wind slammed into her like a living thing, driving tiny daggers of snow into every fold of her clothing. Clutching Miri close, she staggered onto the frozen plain. The footprints she'd seen, gigantic and impossibly precise, had all but vanished under the swirling white. Only the faintest depressions remained, leading toward a distant ridge. Each breath was a battle. The cold burned her lungs, and her legs felt as if they might give out beneath her. Yet she pressed on, following the phantom tracks. As she walked, memories haunted her steps. The warm violet forests of Vargan 9 before the freeze, laughter echoing across the colony's terraces. The first harvest festival when the hover-fiery flora lit up the night like embers. All of it was gone now, buried beneath ice so deep it seemed to stretch to eternity. Miri stilled in her arms, her tiny body growing heavier. Lara's chest tightened with fear. The lullaby had saved her daughter once. Could it do so again? She tried to sing, but the wind swallowed her voice. Instead, she pressed her cheek to Miri's head and whispered fragments of their song. Through frost-tipped trees and frozen sea, safe beyond the storm's domain. A flicker of warmth responded within Miri's chest, nothing like the stranger's device, but enough to remind Lara why she couldn't stop. She needed more power, more hope. A sudden groan of shifting ice froze her in place. Ahead, a wall of crystalline spires jutted skyward, reflecting the strange gray light of Vargan 9's twin moons. This was the Ice Teeth, a formation that legend claimed marked the boundary between the known world and the great white expanse. Few had lived to see beyond it. Lyra's teeth chattered as she crossed the threshold. The howling wind seemed to whisper her name. She staggered, nearly dropping Miri, but caught herself against an ice pillar. The baby whimpered, eyelids fluttering. "She's fading," Lara murmured, panic blossoming in her chest. She brushed snow from the cradle of her daughter's neck and checked the colony's biosensor. Its display flickered erratically. Warning, vital signs critical, immediate action required. Caden's voice crackled through her comm link, distorted by static. Lara tightened her grip on the comm unit. "I know," she gasped, "but what action do I take on a world that's killing me with every breath?" Silence answered her, then the whisper of movement. Lara snapped her head toward the ridge's base. There, half buried in snow, lay the shattered remains of an ancient vessel, its hull carved with symbols half erased. By time, she stared in disbelief, human construction by the shape of its windows and the faded crest that still glowed faintly. Hope and dread warred in her heart. The legends hadn't lied. Humans had come to Vargan 9. But if this ship had crashed decades, or centuries ago, any survivors would be ghosts to her now. Yet in that moment, the wind died down. The only sound was Lara's ragged breathing and the faint pulse of Miri's heart. The stranger's tracks must lead here. With every ounce of strength she had left, Lara took a step toward the wreckage, whispering to her daughter, "Hang on, my star child. We'll find a way." And so, with the echoes of the past swirling around her, Lara pressed forward into the heart of the frozen ruin, driven by a mother's love and the faint promise of salvation hidden in the ice. Lara's boots crunched on the crusted snow as she approached the half-buried hull of the ancient vessel. Ice-coated plating arced away beneath tangled vines of frost, each panel scarred by time and weather. Miri nestled against her chest, her warmth fading so swiftly that Lara could almost hear the vital rhythm slipping away. She crouched beside a shattered access port. Flicking off a glove, she pressed her palm to the metal rim. The chill seared through her skin, and yet etched into the alloy she felt something more, a faint vibration, as though the ship itself remembered the hum of its engines. Gathering courage, Lara pried free the frozen debris and slid through the gap into cavernous darkness. Inside, the air was stale, but mercifully warmer than the blizzard's bite. Snowflakes drifted in where the hull had buckled open, settling atop consoles and shattered cryobunks. Lara's breath stirred the mist, and in the pale light from her helmet, she saw ancient inscriptions scrawled across a console. To any who find this, we come in peace. Crew of the Odyssey, Earth year 2237. Her heart thundered. Earth year 2237, over 2 centuries ago. The Odyssey had crashed here long before her colony was even seeded. Could any human still live? She wiped her frozen tears and strode deeper into the wreck. A row of cryotubes stood at one end of the chamber, their glass shattered, machines dead. A laminated datapad lay on the floor. Lara hissed as she picked it up. The screen flickered desperately, then stabilized, lines of text scrolling upward. Captain's log, Lieutenant Young. We are crippled. Hull breach in Quadrant 4. Life support failing. If you read this, know that our mission, an expedition, to aid distant outposts, foundered in the solar storm. We set a beacon. If any survivors are out there, follow our trail to the ice teeth. The rescue ship will come. Every word felt like a plea echoing across centuries. The beacon. Lara remembered the footprints. They hadn't been random. They were purposeful, following the beacon's signal. And though the storm had buried the trail many times over, someone or something had kept it alive. Crouching, she looked at Miri's frail form. They left a trail, she whispered, and someone came for them. Hope swelled in her chest, fragile but real. As she rose, a rhythmic thrum resonated through the deck plates. Lara's pulse spiked. She scanned the corridor ahead. There, behind a collapsed hatch, a dim amber glow pulsed like a heartbeat. Incredible warmth radiated through the metal, thawing the frost at her fingertips. Carefully, she heaved the hatch aside. Beyond lay an antechamber illuminated by a single operational uplight. At its center stood a figure tall as a mountain fir, cloaked in a suit of dark alloy that absorbed the light around it. The stranger's faceplate reflected nothing but Lara's own astonished gaze. Massive gauntlets rested at its sides, each inscribed with symbols she didn't recognize, save for one, the same crest she'd seen on the Odyssey's hull. Time slowed. The stranger knelt and extended a hand, fingertips aglow with gentle warmth. The ice beneath it melted in a whisper, forming rivulets that crept toward Lara's boots. In that moment, the legend was no longer myth. The human had finally come through the blizzard. Lara's voice trembled. You came for us. The figure's reply was a low, resonant hum, an alien cadence threaded with human speech. I follow the beacon's song. You are not alone. Clutching Miri to her chest, Lara felt tears break free. The stranger rose, and in its silhouette she saw both the promise of salvation and the weight of all who'd waited these centuries. Together they stood amid the wreckage, mother, child, and savior, poised at the threshold between despair and deliverance. The storm outside raged with renewed fury, but inside the chamber a quiet warmth spread, as if the legend itself breathed life once more. The antechamber's warm glow pulsed against Lara's frozen skin as the stranger crouched beside her. Its gauntleted hand hovered above Miri's chest, the runes along its fingers radiating a soft amber light. Lara held her breath, every snow-chilled bone in her body trembling with hope and fear. Please, she whispered, voice cracked. Help her. The stranger's helmet tilted, a gesture of understanding. From a compartment on its forearm it withdrew a slender crystalline emitter, an alien device etched with the same symbols as its armor. The emitter hummed, then projected a golden lattice of sound waves that wrapped around Miri like a cocoon. Lara's lullaby rose in her throat unbidden. Child of starlight, bright and bold, awake your spirit, fierce and whole. She sang, again voice stronger this time, weaving her ancestral melody into the emitter's resonance. The chamber vibrated gently. The frost on the walls winked and fell away. Miri's tiny chest, once so still, began to rise and fall with deeper, more assured breaths. The emitter's glow brightened and Lara felt warmth bloom in her arms. Tears slipped down her cheeks, thawing where they fell. When her lullaby merged fully with the device's song, A crescendo of light and sound rippled outward, melting ice, reviving circuits, and stirring the very air into a gentler current. Miri's eyes fluttered open. Her scales, first pale as moonstone, now glowed with iridescent teal and violet. She cooed softly, reaching for Lyra's face. Lara gathered her daughter close, laughing through tears as she cradled Miri's warming body against her heart. Behind them, the antechamber doors creaked and sealed themselves. Down the corridor, other survivors stirred as warming wave fronts spread through the wreck. Panels snapped to life, sensors flickered back on, and the faint hum of a reactivated life support network echoed through the deck. The stranger stood, the emitter now dark and harmless in its hand. It turned to Lara, and through the tinted visor, she thought she saw a nod, an ancient promise fulfilled. "Come," its voice intoned, each word rich with human warmth. This way. Guided by the stranger, Lara stepped through the corridor, Miri secure in her arms. Distant bulkheads brightened to soft white light as the stranger's presence reactivated dormant systems. Here, an old hydroponic bay glowed, green. There, a lab's cryostat hummed to life, matrices within thawing. At the very heart of the ship, they reached a central control node. A holographic map of Vargan 9 materialized, its beacon points tracing across the ice fields toward the colony's main hub. With a touch, the stranger transmitted a signal, linking the Odyssey's long-dormant comm array to the colony's network. A voice crackled to life on the comm. Caden. Unidentified vessel detected. Life form signatures positive. Systems restored to 87%. Colony power rerouting in progress. Lara exhaled, relief flooding through her. The lullaby, the light, and the stranger's technology had united to banish the freeze, at least here. Outside, the storm still raged, but within this ancient ship, hope rekindled. Lara kissed Miri's forehead. "Your song saved us," she whispered. The emitter's runes glowed faintly on the stranger's gauntlet, as if echoing her words. And in that moment, amid the hum of revived machines and ancestral melody, mother and child knew their world would thaw, and that tomorrow, they would step out of the wreck as survivors reborn. The passageway's bulkheads glowed with renewed power as Lyra, cradling Miri, followed the stranger toward the aft airlock. White light spilled through corridors once frozen and dark, now alive with humming conduits and the soft hiss of repressurizing vents. Around them, the Odyssey's long silent systems whispered back to life, churning ice crystals into vapor and opening sealed maintenance doors. At the airlock, the stranger placed a gloved hand on the control panel. A soft amber glow pulsed in response, and the outer hatch began to slide open with a pneumatic sigh. The blizzard's roar spilled in, but through the swirling snow, Lyra saw her people gathered beyond the landing pad, battered but unbroken, their bioluminescent tattoos flickering with cautious hope. Caden's voice crackled through Lyra's comlink. "All colony survivors accounted for. Emergency shuttles online. Liftoff window in T-5 minutes." She exhaled, a plume of astonishment and relief mingling with the cold. The stranger extended a hand, this time tipped with the gentle warmth of human promise. Lyra grasped it, and together they stepped into the biting gale. Snow stung her cheeks, but every step toward her fellow colonists felt triumphant. Children peeked from behind sled-pulled sledges piled with supplies. Elders stood with tears on frozen lashes. When they saw Miri gasping a healthy breath in Lyra's arms, a cheer rose, a sound that crackled through the storm like sunlight, breaking through clouds. The stranger raised their arm, and an illuminated path unfolded before them, projected waypoints melting the snow where colonists could follow. Mothers gathered their own children, technicians prepared the restored shuttles. Caden's drones hummed overhead, guiding squat transports to the Odyssey's ramp. Lara paused at the threshold of the airlock, turning to the stranger. Their visor reflected her own teary smile. In that mirrored surface, she saw not just a savior but a harbinger of new beginnings, of human and Vargan 9 species forging a shared destiny. "Thank you," she whispered. The stranger inclined their head, then stepped back into the open air, raising a hand in farewell. Snow swirled around them, haloed by the ship's landing lights. One by one, colonists filed aboard the Odyssey's ramp. Families, engineers, the injured leaning on each other. Last came Lara and Miri, whose tiny cry of wonder echoed amid the cavernous hangar. The airlock sealed, and the shuttle shuddered as its engines powered up. Through the observation port, Lara watched the stranger, standing alone on the frozen ground, an enduring beacon against the white expanse. Then, with a final wave, they turned and disappeared into the storm's heart, following the beacon that would someday guide the rescue ships yet to come. As the shuttle lifted, Vargan 9's icy planes fell away, and Lara felt Miri's fingers wrap around her gloved thumb. The child's scales glowed with vibrant life, and Lara knew the lullaby had found its echo in human technology, and in the enduring pulse of hope. Outside, the blizzard raged on, but inside the Odyssey, warmth and light blossomed. A new chapter dawned for the colony, one where ancient songs and human courage intertwined, promising that no cry for aid, no heart's final hymn, would ever go unanswered again.